Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. This is the show, and I'm going to do it, where we get under the hat of all things franchising. And I hope you're all well. Now, it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's about 5:15 on the 14th of October or 12:15 in bits of America. So because it's live, we love you to get involved if you can. So say hello and get involved in our conversations, because these conversations are about you and they're for you, they're for our community. So if you're in franchising and you want to ask a question, get involved in these conversations, then please pop up a comment. Now, each week on the show, we take a different subject and we take a lovely guest. And today is no exception to that. We have a fantastic guest with us today. The subject we're going to be talking about today is franchisee validation and qualification. And to discuss this, we have the lovely Neil Newman from the fantastic Gather, one of our supporters. Neil, welcome to the Franchise Show.
Hi, Harvey. Thank you for that. And it's only my wife that calls me lovely, so I appreciate
that. Well, there you go. There's two people that have called you lovely now.
That's the maximum.
That's it. Perhaps before we begin, lots of people will know you, Neil, and what you do, but perhaps perhaps you could give a little bit of a introduction to yourself, to Gather, and how you've got involved in the wonderful world of franchising.
Okay, I'll start back to front actually. I fell into franchising purely because the model of the Gather platform really leans into helping organizations. But so let me go back the other way then. So where we started was in hospitality, and then we became industry agnostic. But we're about helping organizations understand what's going well in their business at an operational level, and what's going not so well, so they can focus and make it better. And that's both internally with staff and work culture, as well as externally with brand reputation. And where that plays massively into the franchise model is because the system will automatically benchmark the franchisees. So it takes the workload off the franchisor, but it enables them to benchmark completely separately from any financials, what we term soft KPIs. So that's how we got into franchise, which is probably about 3 years now. And I have to say the franchising community has been fantastic, very embracing. I've been educated a lot, which I appreciate. I love being educated, so it's great. So I am not franchise expert in the slightest.
Nor am I.
More so than me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great introduction, Neil. Thank you for that. Before we start getting into the topic today, let's welcome a few people who have already joined us live. We've got the lovely Penny Hopkinson. Penny's put hello, Harvey and Neil, and all other franchise friends from the cold Midlands. Oh, it's fantastic to have you with us, Penny.
Hi, Penny.
Penny is, of course, a supporter of our show and an early supporter. So she gets a bonus advert. This is Penny's book. Now, is it the right way round? Yes, it is. And if you want to get your ops manuals the right way round, then talk to Penny. That's good.
And they're magic, of course.
They are, yeah, absolutely. We have the fantastic Simon Wise. He's put hello, franchise friends. Always good to have you with us, Simon. Going to be really interesting to get your thoughts on franchisee validation and qualification. Simon is, of course, an expert recruiter for our wonderful industry here in the UK. So it's fantastic to have you with us, Simon. Who else do we have? We've got the lovely Nick Pleven with us. Fantastic to have you with us, Nick. Nick's put hello, Harvey and Neil. Pleased to be here. Well, pleased to have you here, Nick. Nick is, of course, another one of our supporters from eTalent. And look, I think this is going to be a valuable conversation. You know, Nick is very much about soft skills and how we recruit our people in a different and unique way. So it'd be great to get your take on how we validate and how we qualify people, because it's not just franchisees, it's all of our people within our organizations. So really, really important.
I can hear Nick saying no CVs. That's what he's saying right now.
He's not a fan of CV. We got Simon. What's he put? Oh, Neil needs to put a light on. Oh, you're a little bit
It
dark
does
there.
seem very dark, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't
there you
afford
go.
to.
There you go. I always turn my light off just to make it better. There you go.
I'm not sure about that. Maybe I just need a better light.
Maybe. There you go. We have the lovely Lisa Feverick. She's put, hey, everyone. Always good to have you with us, Lisa. Lisa is a regular on our show, has her own show, and helps people with dietary requirements when they're going through the menopause. So it's fantastic to have you with us. You're doing great work, and thank you for always being here. We have Angie Sumnall, QFP. Let's do your letters as well. And Angie has put, hello, everyone. Well, great to have you here, and hello to you too. Got a couple more people before we start to get into today's conversation. We've got Omar. Omar is a great friend of mine, does a lovely LinkedIn Live called Zoom Party. It's great fun. Do check that out. He's put, Harvey, great to see you on today. Well, it's great to have you with us, Omar. And finally, we have, oh, not quite finally, we've got one more person. But we've got Barry Price from the Bike Fitters. Great franchise here in the UK. He's put good day. Oh, good day to you too. And let's have a quick look. Nick has put, I certainly do say that. No CVs, where you can check out our episode with Nick as to why he doesn't like those. Excellent. Well, look, welcome to everyone who has joined us here live. Please pop in some comments and get involved in this conversation. So we're going to be talking about validation and qualification. And we're going to be talking about that in a few different areas of our business, but let's start talking about this in a general way. Neil, how has your software platform been used in the past to sort of qualify and validate people in general? You know, has it been used in that way for various businesses?
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of because of the versatility of what we do. It can be a front end into enabling people to screen whatever criteria they have for. So our background was actually for not CVs, for job applicants. Of course, it doesn't matter what you're screening for. So you can screen for franchisees, you can screen for anything you want, really, because you put the criteria up. They need to jump through those hoops. And what we're trying to do, and I have to say, the history of that is it came out. We work a lot in the care sector, and for every job advert they put up, they get 60 at least minimum responses. So they have to read every CV and churn through them and then respond accordingly. But if that person doesn't have the right credentials or doesn't have the legal rights to work in the UK or is out of the geography of that company, then you've just wasted a huge amount of time and effort. So what we're trying to do is help businesses be much more efficient and effective in that respect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. And, you know, screening is so important. I mean, when you are trying to find a franchisee for your business, you're really trying to find somebody who's going to match in with your business values, your business model. And you want to try and do that in a way that's as simple as possible and doesn't kind of scare them off, you know, and that they can fill out something that is relatively straightforward. And I'm not going to even say fun. Is it fun? I don't know. But look, when you fill out an account application or an application form, it's boring, right?
Yeah.
You've got to kind of get through this. You just want a little bit of information to give you an idea as a franchisor. Are these people right? What do you think of that?
Well, 100% I agree with it. And the sort of the ethos of our system, because if you're so our background obviously is gathering information for companies, whether and as I mentioned before, but don't put their name, address, email, height, eye color type up front, because that's just going to deter them from filling it in. Because and it's not essential. If you get through those 5 questions, or 6 or 7 or 8 questions, and then you find out, well, actually, they haven't got the capabilities to do the job, that's just not made their life any easier. If they get through your criteria first, then ask them those essential details. There's no point in making their lives painful. Find out if they're qualified for the position, and if they are, then we can get into, oh, okay, fantastic. Who are you now? And you can get into more detail. And that's the way we work with just getting feedback for organizations is, you see these things come through and they say, we want your email address, your name, your address. I don't want to give you all that information. All I want to tell you was the service was fantastic in that restaurant, or that product didn't work. So
Mm.
just make
Mm.
it easy. And then anybody can do that. They don't need gather. I'm just saying that's what we focus on, is making it easier.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You just kind of want to get to the crux of things, don't you? If you,
Completely.
we're talking a little bit here about, maybe a customer filling in a satisfaction survey. Perhaps that was there. But look, let's take this back to what we're talking about today, which is validation and qualification of franchisees, because it's exactly the same thing. When a franchisee makes an inquiry, they want to get to the sort of the details of what is this, you know,
Yeah.
is this going to be right for me? Am I going to be right for this organization? Am I going to be is there a good chance of me being successful? And it's really interesting to not take those primary details first, right?
It,
Email
it's
address.
it's almost
Oh, sorry.
counterintuitive. But the point is, they may not have the criteria. Let's say, I mean, I'm using arbitrary figures, but let's say you need £50,000 to be a franchisee. You get to that question and they go, oh God, no, I don't have that sort of money. Then you haven't wasted their time and effort. But if they have got that sort of money, or put intelligence in there, they might not have that sort of money. Then route them out to a capability where they could get that funding as an option. So and again, you can do all this sort of thing with the Gather platform. But the point is, don't waste their time either, and you don't need to waste their time by asking for the huge background information when actually they don't hit the credentials you need anyway in the first place.
Mm.
Does that
It's
make
really
sense? Sorry, I keep saying that, but
That's
I
so
keep
sorry. No.
checking myself. That's all.
I think it's really interesting, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can frame a question and in a way that's more interesting and quicker to answer as well. But that was a really interesting one you mentioned there about the capital that's required, or about the money, right?
Hmm.
Because it doesn't matter how much you tie into the values of a business. You've got to have enough money to be able to invest in it, right? And it, if not, you've got to have some other options. So you've got to get to these things fairly early, and
Yes.
I know, because I know the platform, that you can say, that what you can either say, how much do you have, or you can say, well, it's 50,000. Do you have that capital available? Yes, we'll take you to one section. No, we'll perhaps take you to, like you say, would you like help with finance and these other options? And if
Yes.
it's kind of no, or it can take you down a path, can't it?
Exactly that. And that's what you want. You want a bit of logic. And again, quick and simple. Because if it's going to be arduous, even if you do have the funds and you do have it, people just die out. the attention span of people has diminished dramatically. So we need to make these things quick, simple, and effective and
Absolutely.
intelligent wherever we can.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you have just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show, and today we are talking about validation and qualification of our franchisees. And we have the lovely Neil Newman from Gather here,
They're
and that's
lovely.
yeah,
Twice now.
the terrible Neil Newman from Gather.
There we go. Bit of honesty.
um, and look, it'd be really interesting to hear your experiences as franchisors, franchise professionals, and franchisees. What questions did you ask? What questions do you want to ask your prospective franchisees? How would you want to frame this? You know, I I always asked a question. What was it that made you reach out? Right? Now, it's an open question, and there are ways of dealing with these things on the platform, but everyone has a kind of a gem that they ask where the answer is just really interesting. It tells you a lot of things. Let's get into, you said 6 to 8 questions. What I want to get into a little bit is what different types of questioning and answering, how can it be framed? I know there's sort of emojis, but give us some examples of those different framings of the questions that people can put into this type of software.
Well, I suppose it's quite unlimited into what you can do. Um, you can, as you rightly said, you can use emoticons to judge how passionate they are about your industry, understand their levels of enthusiasm and their levels of commitment. So that, that's just one thing you can do. Then we can look at the more hardcore facts of things like, as we said earlier, financials or geography. There's so many different ways you can do it. Um, you can absolutely do open text, and obviously you should do open text, but wherever possible, it's much better to offer up answers, because then you get one, a statistical answer, but two, you make it again, you're making it easier for the end user, for the respondent to go, oh yeah, that's me. And it's a quicker, easier experience. It just means, rather than we see, and the term is survey abandonment, that criteria, that situation is radically reduced because it just flows. Whereas if you're constantly interrupting them with open text box, and what we're trying to say, this is just about the initial criteria. It's not about this is their entire response to your application. We're just trying to get through some major gates to see if they're in or out. That's all. And then if they are in, then we can delve into more detail. But let's not waste one another's time if they're not serious about this.
Absolutely. Let's get to a few other people who have joined us. We've got Bob Forst joining us from Louisville, Kentucky. He's put, good afternoon, Harvey and all. Great to have you with us, Bob. Let's have a look. We've got a couple of good comments coming up, so let's have a look at these. So we've got a comment here from Simon. Simon's put, the key to attracting new franchisees into the network is happy, successful existing franchisees. How do you measure and report back on that? Great question, Simon. I love this, because look, we're looking for sort of practical uses, and we're trying to help the franchise community, both franchisees and franchisors, to make the right decisions or to make informed decisions. And we can do that by getting them to ask the right type of questions. If we can put it in a format where that's really easy, then that's going to help a lot. So what do you make of this one? How do we take, let's say it's an existing franchisee, how do we measure how successful they are?
Again, we need to be mindful of, well, two things: anonymity. Fully support anonymity, because anonymity breeds honesty. So as much as we want to know who the franchisee might be, especially if they're not happy, it's really helpful to know the proportion of your franchisees. Are we looking at 50% of my franchise think the communications are poor in my company, or are we seeing 2% of my franchisees think that? In which case, you can honestly say that, well, 98% don't. So obviously there's an issue with these people, these franchisees. I'm sorry, I'm used to doing this in a business rather than a franchisor model. So that's why I say people. But yeah, so but it all applies. It all applies. You know,
Yeah.
it's still people. You can call them franchisees as much as you like, but there are people within the franchisees. So, and those franchisees are people, and they're responding to questions about how are our communications, how's our support. You know, and by gaining honest insights into that, and if you're getting fantastic responses back, because one, it's taking them 30 seconds to respond to all these questions, and two, you've given them anonymity to be honest with you, and you're getting a fabulous response. Take that, market it, and promote it, and say, 100% of our franchisees love our working culture. They find that we're giving them a full support, and that just encourages other franchisees to join your organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's have a little look. We've got a few more comments coming in. I just want to bring these up because, as I say, this conversation is a conversation between all of us. You are the producers and the directors of this show. I say it often. I worryingly showed Neil the piece of paper that I did all my prep work on
Yes, you did.
earlier. What was written on that?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And that's because this is a conversation between us all. So I love the fact that you're all getting involved. It's brilliant. We've got
Do ask Simon if that answered his question, or I can ask Simon. Simon, did that answer your question?
well, hopefully it did, and I'm sure he'll come back if it didn't. And we're going to get more. We can get more into these conversations depending on which way we all want to go. Beth Smith, first of all, welcome to the Franchise Show, Beth. Beth has put true. Potential franchisees need to know upfront what the fees are and do you have X amount in liquid assets? Absolutely. You've got to get to this early on. Yes, of course, they've got to align with values and be passionate about an industry. But if it costs £1 million to do a franchise, or it costs 100,000 and they've got £1 in the bank, it's just not going to work. However passionate they are, unless you've got an incredibly unique franchise offer that allows for a very low capital entry. And there are some low cost franchises and some ways for people to do it. But Beth, you're absolutely spot on, and Neil, you're spot on in the fact that early on in that outreach to those potential franchisees, have you noticed that I haven't said the word survey? Oh no, I've done it now. But in that outreach to potential franchisees, you can just get to these questions really early on, and it saves a potential franchisee a lot of heartache, a lot of effort, a lot of wasted time, because there may well be another opportunity that they're going to look at that will fit within their budgets.
Yeah, exactly.
And it might be just, what's the point in going through and putting all of these details in when actually you've got to get to the crux of things a bit earlier.
Yes.
Let's have a look. We've got a few more comments coming up here from Bob, from Nick.
Thanks, Beth.
A couple from Nick. I just want to quickly welcome the fact, and let's bring up Joe's comment now. But first of all, Joe Caruso, I'm a big fan of Joe and what he does in America. And I encourage you to reach out to Joe and to follow Joe if you are looking at franchising in America. So let's have a look. First of all, he's put Neil and Harvey at the outset of an inquiry for a franchise. Would you agree it is a balance of web copy so people can self-qualify, that it's harmonious with an inquiry form with vital information and minimal friction? Yeah, I think this is really interesting. And I'm always saying that potential franchisees, people who are looking to invest in a business, they need to do their own investigations as well. You know, it's not just on the franchisor. What do you make of this one, Neil?
And you can put me on the right course here, Harvey, because I might have misunderstood. But the thing about the inquiry form, I think I'm just sort of dead set against it. It's people see forms and it just turns them off, frankly. If you can just lay up, as you said, 6, 8, 10 questions and just get to the crux of the matter, fine, go on to a form and fill out the details. But what we're trying to establish right from the outset is, does this person have the right criteria? You know, they might be in the wrong country for all we know. But, you know, let's get to the nub of the matter before we start asking them for their name, shoe size, address, and date of birth and national insurance number. It's
Yeah.
just all unnecessary information until we know that they fit the criteria, the minimum criteria, those.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great comment, Joe,
I
because
might
what I like about this,
misunderstood that, Joe. Sorry.
no, not at all. What I like about this comment here, Joe, is you're highlighting the fact that a franchisee needs to have a look at the website, needs to self-qualify, you know, needs to think, am I right for this? And actually, that's going to go a long way in knowing whether they're right, because they're of the caliber where they've done their research, they've investigated about the franchise, they've see whether they're a fit. It's relatively easy to go online and roughly see how much the costs are. So I think it's really interesting. But I think also you need to guide people as well through a process, you know, and make it as easy as possible. But look, love it. Keep these comments coming in. Really like that one. Where are we at now? Let's have a look at this one from Nick. Nick has put, what would you say about using a values motivators assessment to see what is that actually motivates them? Okay, yeah. How, Neil, how would you deal with trying to assess somebody's
I
motivations?
think it's
You know,
absolutely valid that what Nick says there, and I know that his platform does that, and a lot more as well. But yeah, you do need to understand what motivates them, and it's down to the business, the franchisor, as to whether they want to put those sort of questions in their initial evaluation, or whether they want that as a second evaluation once they've gone through the minimum criteria. That's my personal view as a business owner, and I don't think that changes as a franchisor because you're still a business owner. So I would say have your minimum criteria that can be really done in well, when I say minutes, probably seconds. That you know that hits all the right notes. If that's fine, then you can automatically fall into what Nick has said here, and then get on to things. Right, what drives them? What's their passion? What's their motivation? Are they what profile have they got? All these sort of things that are absolutely essential in pieces of information. Absolutely, which comes back to this whole CV to the curb thing that Nick says, which I agree with.
absolutely. We've got comments coming up here from Bob and another one from Nick in a minute. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is how do we deal with bias in this type of thing? You know, because it's really tricky, isn't it? Because one of the early comments there from Simon was, look, can we use this to get validation from other franchisees as to how happy they are, how successful they are, so that we can then produce some figures to tell potential franchisees how happy and how successful somebody is.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we go about, if we are a franchisor, and hopefully people listening are franchisors that want transparency, want honesty, want to give franchisees that raw information, whatever that is, they really want to just get across what this business is because they're going to have a better chance of being successful. Are there any kind of tips that you can think of or that you've used in the past to try and create something that offers that, that sort of balanced view. It's
Yeah,
very hard.
absolutely. So again, referring not franchisees and franchisors, but learning from what we've done in businesses is um, we for our the staff culture one, we call it voice of the staff, or staff voice. And what we're saying here, and this is a takeaway for anybody: do not tell anybody to fill anything in. That's just such a no-no. You want to give them the opportunity for them to express themselves, or you want to hear their valued opinion. So these sort of words are what encourages people to get involved. And I know people don't like anonymity, but it does breed honesty. And if you want to be, as you said earlier, Harvey, transparent about things, and you want to know what's truly being thought about your business, then you need, unfortunately, anonymity, because it will help you build a picture to go, yes, everything is as fantastic as I thought it, in quote marks, thought it was. Here's the evidence. Great, I'm going to use that to market. Or, oh my God, I didn't realize we had those issues, because people will only tell you what you want to hear, because we're very polite people and we'll tell you exactly what you want to hear rather than, and I'm sure there's people shouting at the screen right now saying, no, they tell us they're terrible things.
Mm.
Telling you is not evidence. That's hearsay and conjecture. You need it in writing. You need it evidence so that you can measure that and then plot a course to improvement. So, and then that's where you get the win, because even if something is bad, you can demonstrate you've listened and you've moved forward, and you come out of that problem into an area and you said, look, been listening to you, my franchisees, and this is what we've done, and this is how we've rectified that problem. And here's the evidence, because you now love us.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is really interesting. I think as if you're using software like this to try and establish some quantifiable information,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're now talking about franchisee validation, right? Okay, so we're perhaps moving away from the qualification, and let's get fully into the sort of the validation piece of this. So as prospective franchisees, prospective investors, you really want to know about this business, and you want to get all these different perspectives. And as Joe said, you want to do your own research. You want to talk to franchisees. You really want to try and get sort of under the hat.
Yes.
Doing it again. That's good, that one.
That was good.
Of these franchise brands.
Yeah.
But, and I know Joe has said this actually in the past, that try and, if for instance you've said, are you satisfied with your franchisee support? Yes or no. Okay.
Bit
And
binary.
that's what you send out. It is, exactly. It's very binary, right? And of course, you've got to be quite unsatisfied to put no, because it's a very, yes, no. So therefore, it could be biased towards the yes part of that.
Mm.
And therefore, if then 90% of your franchisees click yes rather than no, and then you put out 95% of our franchisees are happy with the support,
Right.
you've got to be really careful with that, I think, don't you?
You're right. I mean, it's great for marketing, I suppose.
It is.
But
It is.
if you're honest about your business and you really want your business to succeed, you really need to know, you really need to give them a choice, because if if it's good, not great, how do I get from good to great? If you just want to run a good business, that's fine, carry on. But if you want to run a great business, then you need a granular scale in order to understand, not a binary yes no.
Yeah. So how would you frame that particular question? I mean, I think if I was choosing to invest in a franchise, I'd want to know whether people are happy and successful. That was said by the great John Hewitt, that the secret to success of franchising is happy, successful franchisees,
Hmm.
right? And I really believe that, but it's very simplistic to say, and very nuanced to analyze and get to that. But let's say rather than that binary, what would you say? Would you, in order to try and get something out of that in terms of how happy your franchisees
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
Would you do it on the sort of emoji scale? Would you do it on the sort of, how would you rate your support? Good, very good, average, very poor, poor, that type of thing. What would you say is the best way
Right.
to get a
Well, and
real answer?
this is the thing, and I think it's down to the culture of the company, because you can't say one thing fits all companies, because they all have different cultures, they all have different values. So whereas you could say very happy, happy, unhappy on one scale, that would fit maybe perfectly with a beauty company that's a franchise, because that's a sort of ethos they want to project. Whereas it might not fit well for a painting and decorating company who want to be more practical and have excellent good. So I don't think we should dictate what goes on. What I would say wholeheartedly is do not use numbers. Do not use a 1 to 5 scale, because it's not, somebody's 2, somebody's 3, somebody's 4, somebody's
Mm.
5. It what you're trying to do is make it much more intuitive when you're getting involved and engaged. That's what we do in Gather, is we make it intuitive, we make it engaging, because you just select, I'm very happy because I love my job. I love my franchisor. I think the sport's great. That's what I'm going to select. Whereas 5, people go, oh, 5. There's always room for improvement. Or a 10. There's always room for improvement. You're very less likely to get a 5 or a 10, depending on the scale you're measuring on, if you're using numbers, because people do not want to give a 10, because there's always room for improvement. Whereas if you actually
Mm.
say, how happy are you with our support? Oh, I'm very happy with our support. That's easy. But the effect is that's a 5. You see what I say? They don't, don't need to bore them with numbers, but it's just about being intuitive and engaging. That's what people need to think about when they're engaging with anybody, staff, franchise, customers, everything. We're all people at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. We've got comments coming up from Bob, from Joe, and from Beth. If you have just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show. Today we are talking about franchisee validation and qualification, and what tools we've got at our disposal to really try and delve deep and get to the bottom of that, and try and put out a genuine picture of this. Right now, I know Neil can help people get to that, and please reach out to Neil, because it's different for each franchisor. Right, it's different how you ask your questions, and how you get to these simple statements that hopefully can deliver confidence about your business. You really want the information, the evidence behind those statements. How many franchisees, if you've got 100 franchisees in your network and you sent out your carefully crafted document to them that they can then respond to, right? If only 2 of them responded, or 3 of them, right, it's not really representing your network, right? So you've got to put those caveats. I think you've got to put the fact that it's 80% of our network that were served, that I nearly said it, that were asked these relevant questions. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Oh, just on the back of that, Harvey, one little another hint and tip for everybody else, not to do with Gather, but less is more. Don't ask 100 questions, because you'll get 1 response. If you ask 10 questions, you'll get 50 responses. So the less you ask, the more you'll get back, because people will look at things and go, I really haven't got the time to fill this in because I'm too busy trying to make money. So just remember, just trying to keep things really tight and small when it comes to asking for anything, and be upfront when you're doing it. Don't say it's good, or if it is going to take 10 minutes, say it's going to take 10 minutes. But if it's only going to take a minute, say it's going to take a minute, because if you don't, they'll assume it's going to take 10 and they'll just delete it.
Yeah, absolutely. People at the outset know it's going to be a short thing that they've got to do, and it's going to take little effort. Then they'll be keener to do it.
Yes.
Right, let's get to a few comments, because we've got about 5 minutes now until we have finished the first part of today's show. So let's have a quick look at, I think, first of all, Bob's comments. So let's have a look at that one. Here we go. So Bob has put, we've always believed that if a candidate doesn't complete and send back an application for consideration, then they're not very serious about learning more about the brand. Their level of enthusiasm is proven by giving them some minimum information about their background and qualifications. Yeah, I think this goes back to when I was saying about an application form might put someone off. And I think Bob makes a very good point. If they're serious about investing, they're going to fill out a short application form. But now when we're moving on to talking about validation, right, you're just trying to get the real information from your network so that number one, you as a franchisor understands where you're at, how well you're doing, what can you do better, how can you improve things, but also so that when you are giving out this stat, this information, right, you're doing that with evidence behind it, and that evidence has got to be robust, right? It can't be in any way doubted, because if you say 95% of our network is happy, right, you've got to have some document behind that, some criteria behind that. What does that really mean? And this is a great way of getting to it. Let's have a look. We've got a few other questions. Let's have a look at this one from Joe. Joe's put. Oh no, we've done that one. Let's go down to this one. So Joe's put, Neil and Harvey, you need to intake the interested party with the least friction and enable your sales team to contact them, right? Yeah. What do you make of this one?
Oh, I completely agree. I love the least friction bit. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But what would be interesting, I'm just going to ask you, Harvey, because you were the one that educated me. What are the stats like for applicants applying as franchisees against successful franchisees making it through?
Well, this varies across the globe, and it varies depending on who you ask and what business you're in. And I've heard anything between one in 20 right up to 1 in 200.
Yeah.
So there's a huge variance of it. And I think that needs addressing. And I think tools like this can address it. And really should. Let's have a quick look. We've got another few comments. I'd like to get to all of these if I can. Let's have a look here. So Joe's put, to establish a valuable feedback loop from your franchise owners, you likely should have both anonymous responses, one-to-one engagement, and forum conversation. Yeah, absolutely. I really, really like this because it encompasses everything there, doesn't it? Plus franchisees doing their own due diligence, right? I started this show to help the industry making more informed decisions. And this is a conversation about that. And it's from both sides. It's franchisors doing their very best to extract the real situation, the real truth from their network, and then put that into a framework that's easy for a franchisee to understand that. And if that doesn't look very good, right, that's okay. You then know what you've got to do, how you can improve it. But what you've got to do is whatever you're extracting, whatever you're giving this simplistic number, has to come from at your heart as well. Some real truth and some real transparency there. But yeah, love this one.
What I like about Joe's statement there is, and that's absolutely key, is we're not saying it should be this or this. We're saying it should be all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, 100.
There you go. Somewhere in between what I said, and I think that's absolutely true here in the UK. And it's an interesting stat, and it's a stat I think.
Can everybody see that? Sorry to ask. I know we can. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks,
yeah,
Simon. That's a lot. I suppose it went with the average. But anyway, that's wow. I mean, and that's an awful wasted lot of time.
It is. It's wasting time for not just prospective franchisees, franchisors, people within the business. You know, there's a lot of time that could be put to other things. But yeah, really, really powerful. We've got a couple of minutes, even if I push this. So I want to have a look at these last few comments. Beth has put validation on paper versus validation of them in person. They may tick all the boxes, yet be a person you cannot see running a franchise. It happens, but of course, part of the process. Yeah, I think this is really important as well. You can go through all of this, but when you come out the other end and you've got a collection of potential candidates, whatever process you've used to qualify them, of course, you absolutely then need to meet them in person. There's all
100%.
sorts of things that happen there that are really important. You know, completely agree with that, Beth. Let's have a look. Joe has put agree. Less is more. Going back to your comment there about
Thank you,
asking fewer questions. So yeah, love that. We've got a couple more. Let's go for this one again from Joe. Oh, sorry, this one's from Simon. Simon's put, just like AI, it's all down to the prompting. A powerful validation tool if you regularly gather. Oh, very good. Glad I brought that one up. If you regularly gather feedback from existing franchisees across brand systems, support, fuels your prospect marketing. It really does. Really does. If you ask the right questions
Yes.
and you ask them in the right way,
Yes,
and you don't ask too many, you're going to get valuable information. You're going to get information that is, it's very hard to say the word true in this because there's so much bias, but you know, that represents your network and can give a prospective franchisee a really good idea. But like Beth said, like Joe said, do your due diligence. Ask people, meet franchisees, talk to the people in the network, talk to other companies, and really, really sort of do all of these things. But we as franchisors have got tools at our disposal to try and get that 1 in 100, perhaps down to 1 in 20 that we have a bit of a deeper dive into. Unfortunately, we have run out of time today. It's been a fantastic conversation today. Our community has really got into this. I was at the beginning, I don't have anything written down, but now, as you can see, I do. And it's really valuable for me as well. So this now brings us to the last part of today's show. And this is the point of the show where my camera will go off for a little bit because it's now technically illegal to see me without wearing some sort of hat. And I now have a beauty. Look at that one. And this hat is brought to you by PJ Murphy and Sons, bespoke British hatters. And if you'd like a hat like this, then reach out to the lovely Paul Murphy. He's lovely as well, Neil. It's two. There's at least two.
That's good.
Now, this is the part of the show where we stop talking about gather and we stop talking about validation and qualification. And two things happen. One, I get to ask Neil a little question about him, just a little fun question. And the bit that I'm terribly worried about, he gets to ask me anything he wishes as well. So first of all, I'm going to go for, have you met anyone famous? Have you got a claim to fame or some sort of crazy hobby? Last week, it was all about flying.
Well, flying's okay. As I suppose, I don't think windsurfing's a crazy hobby, but some people might, especially in January, might think it's crazy. But
Did you
yeah,
go out in January?
yes. Yeah, well,
Oh my goodness.
I did go out a couple of years ago in a Santa's outfit on Christmas Day
In this country?
in this country, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So maybe it is crazy then.
Could well be, yeah, could well be. I like that actually because you get lots of those sort of kite surfers now. Not many people are rocking the windsurfers, are they?
I went and saw my chiropractor about, I don't know, 20 years ago. It was quite a long time ago. And then he said to me, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I mountain bike and I windsurf." And he went, "Oh, that's very 80s, isn't it?" No longer my chiropractor.
Well, I like it. I did a bit of windsurfing years ago, and it was great fun. So yes, I'm all up for the windsurfing. Well, look, I promised you could ask me any question you like. You can let me get away with this. If not, now is your chance.
Well, are you named Helena at the weekends? No, I won't say. Um, I want to know what you did before you got into franchising. Not just the job before, like when you were at school. Where was your mindset? Were you going to be a train driver, or a scientist, or what were you
That's a good
thinking?
question. That's a good question. I like that question. I don't think I've been asked that one. When I think back as early as I can think, I wanted to be a vet.
Vet.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I think the reason that because hospitality was in my life, my career for most of my working life, and still is, and I studied to be a chef.
Ah,
And the reason that I wanted to study to be a chef and do hotel management was because of Faulty Towers. Would you
no.
believe? I yes, I thought that's what I want to be like, Basil Fawlty.
Wow.
But it was genuinely the reason that I think I got into hospitality. So there you go. Thanks, John Cleese.
Wow.
But there you go. Well, look, this now brings us to the end of today's session. First of all, I would like to thank our wonderful community, our fantastic audience for getting involved and
Yes, thank you.
driving today's discussion. It's been absolutely fantastic, and you're all really, really valuable to this conversation, to this process. So thank you to you all. And I'd like to thank the lovely, I'm going to say it again, the lovely Neil Newman from Gather. Thanks very much for sharing your insights today with our community. It's been a fantastic conversation. And it only leaves me to say that next week on the Franchise Show, we are going to be talking about franchise networking, franchise parties with the lovely Celine from Businesses for Sale. So that's going to be the 21st of October, Tuesday, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until next time, my lovely friends, take very good care.
Thank
Cheerio.
you all for contributing. Thank you.